Hello, friends. This is Mike from Right Minded, and this time on the Mike Tries series, I'm going to take a look at the sample questions that come along with the digital SAT. This is the first time I'm looking at these, so I'm just going to record my first impressions, mostly for myself, and I don't know, whoever else is bored enough to watch this. Okay, so here are the sample questions. It's going to start with reading and writing. The reading and writing section is combined on the new digital test. So let's just take a look at these questions. First thing to note, and I've thought about this before this, but instead of being big long passages and lots of questions about each passage, instead of that, in the reading and writing section now is just a bunch of short little like quote unquote passages with individual single questions about each one. So you're never going to have like more than a little bit to read. My basic thought is that this turns the test, especially the reading part of the test, basically into the logical reasoning section of the LSAT. I don't know if to anyone who's not familiar with it, I mean, it looks like this, and they're going to ask a lot of questions, like kind of big picture questions. But I anticipate that the difference between right and wrong answer choices here is going to be super logic driven. It's just going to be almost identical to the content of the LSAT. One of the strategic implications for that, now that we have the short answer format or the short prompt format, is that you want to start with this. This is the first thing you want to do for every single question. The first thing you want to do is read the prompt because it's going to affect the way that you read the stimulus. This is where I'm going to start calling this the stimulus. This is LSAT language. This is going to be called the stimulus now. And the way that we're going to approach this is very different if it's a main idea question like this is, oh, which choice states the main idea of the text? We're going to skim this, or well, we're going to read it, but we're going to read it trying to figure out what the main idea is the whole time, rather than reading through it, trying to understand it, then asking ourselves what the main idea is, and then going back and trying to figure out what the main idea is. One of the big tests, or one of the big benefits of this is that well, there's a big difference between reading for the main idea or reading to pick up details versus reading to poke holes in an argument, for example, or reading to understand how an argument is structured. The second lens is much more critical. You're much more skeptical of the stuff that you're reading. Um, right. So, like which finding would oh my God, this is literally a most strongly supported question from the LSAT. Cool. But, as we see, this is a very different mode of reading than this is. Here, we need to actually understand the Jimza and their colleagues' hypotheses. We actually need to understand it in detail, whereas this, we kind of just need to play King of the Hill. All right, and I'm just going to look at the content here. Which choice best states the main idea of the text? To dye wool, Navajo weaver Lily Taylor uses plants and vegetables from Arizona where she lives. For example, all right, so this is already bigger than that, more main idea-y than this. For example, she achieved the deep reds and browns featured in her 2003 rug, blah, 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 by using Arizona dock roots, drying and grinding them before mixing the powder and water to dye bath, right? So far, it's that she uses plants and vegetables from Arizona. That's really cool. I doubt this is going to end up being the total main point, but so far, all of this is supporting that fact she's going to live in Arizona and use Arizona stuff. To intensify the appearance of certain colors, Taylor also sometimes mixes in clay obtained from nearby soil. Oh, well, it's really cool. Well, this is more along the lines of this is more shit. Oh, she's using more shit from where she lives. So the main point is going to be she uses shit from where she lives. So no, these are reds and browns. Is when this is a specific thing. Draws on local resources and the approach she used to dye wool. Oh, to dye wool. That's her thing. Yeah, cool. Taylor finds it difficult to locate Arizona dock route in the desert. No, that's not the main point. Cool. All right, let's see if I got this right. Boom. Wow, I got it right. Holy shit. This is information and ideas. Yeah, sure. So these categories are mostly the same. There's one new category as the old SAT. This is just a detail question. Well, it's like a central ideas and details question, but it's like a question about the facts, not about the structure of the argument or anything like that. Sure. All right, whatever. Okay, question two. Which finding from the model tests, if true, would most strongly support So this is going to be this is a main idea question. This is going to be a most strongly supported question. And so we need to understand what the hypothesis is, think to ourselves about what kind of stuff would strengthen that hypothesis, and then pick it. This is, yeah, you could think of it as almost like a strengthen question. Oh, actually, this isn't the most strongly supported question. This is a strengthen question from the LSAT. We're going to look at the hypothesis and then find support. Which of these is going to strengthen the hypothesis? Okay. Jen, Jimsa, Robert, and Ulrich have hypothesized that the sail-like structure running down the back of a dinosaur, Spinosaurus, whatever, improved the animal's success in underwater pursuits of prey species capable of making quick, evasive movements. Okay, so they think that the sail-like structure is, it's going to help them catch quick underwater shit, you know? All right. To evaluate the hypothesis, the second team of researchers constructed two battery-powered mechanical models that got robot dinosaurs, one with a sail and one without a sail, and subjected the models to a series of identical tests in a water-filled tank. Well, the sail one is like more quick and evasive underwater. That would support their hypothesis. The sail one is like quick and evasive, you know. All right, the model with the sail took significantly longer to travel a specified distance while submerged. Well, so that's a weaken. A weaken answer. It's one of the common kinds of wrong answer choices in the LSAT for a strengthened question. This would weaken their hypothesis. All right, the model with the sail, and this is okay. I'm gonna double check. Would most strongly support their hypothesis. So we are not making the strengthening instead of weakening, or weakening instead of strengthening error. The model with a sail displaced significantly more water while submerged. It is bigger. No one gives a shit if it's bigger. That's another kind of wrong answer choice in strengthening questions, ones that have no impact. The model with a sail had significantly less battery power remaining after completing the tests. So this is also this is a bad thing, if anything, but it's also kind of aside from the point of whether it's good at catching shit. Model with a sail took less time to complete a turn while submerged. Hooray, that's the right answer. Is this going to be a rhetoric question? No, it's information of ideas. Interesting. Command of evidence. We're trying to support a thing. Huh. Yeah, I mean, sure. I wonder now, because information and ideas to me has always struck me as like details question, facts type questions. And then there's a whole other category of questions that's sort of supposed to be about argument structure and whatnot. But this just is an argument structure question. So it might just be that this whole goddamn, all the reading parts, information, ideas, and the other one, I forget what it's called, that's going to come up, is all just going to be logical reasoning. So, okay. I'm just going to, these are, the explanations. Did I get it right? Yes, great. Okay, question 3. Ghosts of the Old Year. Oh, this is one of the ones in the sample suite, so I've done this one before. Which quotation from the Ghosts of the Old Year most effectively illustrates the claim? This is the same kind of question. And here I'll just say, like, I hope that this is an information of ideas, command of evidence textual question. I don't know what textual means. Maybe it's not a textual question, but this should be the same kind of question. Here are some quotes, and we need to illustrate the claim above. Wait, no. Here's the claim, and we need to provide support for it. Similar dynamics, but we need to not go too far. All right, whatever. Ghosts of the Old Year is an early 1900s poem by James Weldon Johnston. In the poem, the speaker describes experiencing an ongoing cycle of anticipation followed by regretful reflection. We need to illustrate the claim. The right answer is going to include anticipation and regret. You gotta have both. You can't just have one. So we're looking for a quote that has anticipation followed by reflection. Yeah, so I actually want to say this is not exactly the same kind of question as the previous one. This is just like LSAT basics, but whereas this question was a strengthened question where we're figuring out the hypothesis up here, and then these things down here Their job is to, if they were true, come up and support this. Down here, we have the standard for what we need to match, and we need to fit these answer choices neatly within this standard without going beyond it. Although there's, yeah, I suppose there's an extra added element of having to hit both of it too. Huh. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if that, yeah, this doesn't happen much in the LSAT. It's more precise than the LSAT. You need to hit both of these, anticipation and reflection, regretful reflection. Yeah, you need to fully illustrate the claim. So this is unlike the LSAT, actually. On the LSAT, an answer that would do one or the other of these would be fine. But that's not going to be true here. The snow has ceased its fluttering flight. The wind sunk to a whisper light. An ominous stillness fills the night. A pause, a hush. This doesn't have to do with anticipation or reflection. And so the years go swiftly by. Ooh, each coming brings ambitions high, and each departing leaves a sigh linked to the past. Hey, look. When it comes, oh, it's coming, and I have ambition to do stuff. I'm anticipating things. And when it's leaving, I'm sad. So this is the answer. Right. Okay. What does this brazen tongue declare that falling on minute air brings to my heart a sense of care akin to fright? This is like maybe touches on reflection, like a little bit. Sorry, regret, a little bit. Like fright is regret, but it's not even close to that, and it certainly doesn't. Well, it's like what? What is this thing? Or maybe we're anticipating the thing. I don't know. That's as close as I can get in terms of arguing for it. All right, this is an interesting answer choice. It tells of many a squandered day. That's regret, 100%. This is regret. Of slighted gems and treasured clay, of precious stores not laid away, of fields unreaped. All of this is big time regret. But the reason why this answer choice is going to be wrong is because it lacks anticipation, which that's interesting. That's a new dynamic for the SAT. Okay. Answers B, and yeah, it's the same kind of question according to them. Information and ideas, command of evidence textual, it's like just the exact same. Yeah. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, hey. Choice D is incorrect because the quotation focuses on regretful reflection, but not anticipation. Okay, cool. Which choice effectively uses data from the table to complete the example? Oh, yeah, so they're continuing the thing with the SAT where they're going to ask a couple like graph questions, quantitative information questions. I wonder if they're called quantitative information questions still. But this is going to be, we're just going to have to interpret this data. Again, I'm starting by reading this. Which choice most effectively uses data from the table to complete the example? So there's going to be an example here, and we're going to need to use data from the table. All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to look, get a basic understanding of what the table is, and then I'm going to figure out what the example is and see what kind of thing would support it. All right, participants' evaluation of the likelihood that robots can work effectively in different occupations. So participants, they're trying to figure out how likely it is that robots can do a good job in different types of job, like television news anchor, teacher, firefighter, etc. These are a bunch of jobs, and these are somewhat or very unlikely. This is like can't do the job. People are like, oh, robots would be shitty television news anchors. These people are like, I don't know. And these are like, oh, robots would be great television news anchors. All right, so I'm just going to look at the data just briefly. Doesn't look like it's in any kind of order, but a lot of people like robot tour guides and robot television anchors. People don't like robot firefighters or surgeons. I feel like robots would be pretty good at firefighting. And people think that robotic teachers are like, maybe okay. They kind of feel middle about it. Yeah, the most neutral. Okay, Georgia Tech roboticists, these two, along with ethicists, this guy, were interested in people's perceptions of robots' competence. how people think about how smart robots are. They recruited participants and asked them how likely they think it is that a robot could do the work required in various occupations. Participants' evaluations varied widely depending. Participation's evaluations varied widely. They varied widely depending on which occupation was being considered. For example, blah. So we need to complete the example. There's a claim that we need to give an example of. The claim is that there's variation depending on occupation. So it's like, for example, occupation 1 is like hella high, but occupation 2 is like, no, super low. That's variation depending on the type of job, the occupation that was being considered. So it's like, oh, they love what people love tour guides, but they fucking hate surgeons, for example. Robotic tour guides are robotic surgeons. All right. 82% of participants believe that it is somewhat or very likely that a robot could work effectively as a tour guide, but only 16 believe that it is somewhat or very likely that a robot could work as a surgeon. Boom, that's right. And just to double check, a high number of people thought somewhat or very likely, like, yeah, robots could be tour guides, but only 16%, only a very low number, believe that they could be surgeons. So, right, okay, so that's just the right answer. All right, 47% of participants believe it is somewhat or very likely that a robot could work effectively as a teacher, but 37% that a robot, this is, okay, so two things wrong with this. First thing is we're not comparing two different jobs. These are both about teachers. The other thing, less of a good reason, is that these two numbers aren't really that different from each other. We want variance and we want different occupations. All right, 9% of participants were neutral. I mean, neutral already is not the best fit. We want like drama because we want variance. About whether a robot could work effectively as a television news anchor, which is the same percent of participants who were neutral when asked, okay, so not variance, so same percent, not variance. 62% of participants believe that it is somewhat or very unlikely that a robot could work. So again, this is just one occupation, so we're not comparing occupations. All right, so A is right. These are all very easy so far. I guess maybe these are hard to read. This would take a long time to read. Command of evidence quantitative. Okay, sure. Okay. They call these distractors. That is an interesting, that's an interesting phrase. Yeah, they're using it consistently. Distractors. That's a good way to think of wrong answer choices. That's like their job. Okay. Wow. This is literally, this is just literally a logical reasoning question. This is just a soft must be true question. Maybe the rules will differ slightly, but this prompt is an LSAT prompt. So we're going to read the stimulus with an uncritical eye, just reading all of these facts as though they're gospel. And then within that logic, we're going to come to a conclusion that is not overstated. We need to be really careful using strong language. This is all just LSAT curriculum, which straight up, I mean, the reading has always involved some like logic and stuff. You need to teach like strong and weak language, for example, but this is just actually LSAT questions. All right, many animals, including humans, must sleep, and sleep is known to have a role in everything from healing injuries to encoding information and long-term memory. Yeah, sleep is important. But some scientists claim that from an evolutionary standpoint, deep sleep for hours at a time leaves an animal so vulnerable that the known benefits of sleeping seem insufficient to explain why it became so widespread in the animal kingdom. Okay, so you need sleep, but it's like, if you sleep a lot, that's like, it's bad. Yeah, it's the known benefits of sleeping seem insufficient to explain why it became so widespread. So we need sleep, that's a fact. But the known benefits, the known bennies, aren't enough. Now, again, our job is to treat these two claims as facts. These are just facts. We need a lot of sleep, but the known benefits of sleep aren't sufficient to explain why it became so widespread. These scientists therefore imply that there must be some unknown benefit to sleep. Yeah, I wonder how many of these are going to be wrong because they're overstating. Okay, let's try to predict one. It's going to be wrong because it's like these imply that, oh, okay, one is like you can go too far the other way, that sleep is actually not that useful. Um, or you could say to overstate the thing, it's like, oh, well, that there must be tons and tons and tons of unknown benefits out there that we barely know anything about sleep. That would overstate the thing. What we actually know is that there is like at least one at least one unknown Benny. There's something else. All right, it is more important now. It is more important to understand how widespread prolonged deep sleep is than to understand its function. This is a claim about where we should focus the attentions of our science, and it's not related to the core point of sleeping and shit. Prolonged deep sleep is likely advantageous in ways that have yet to be discovered. Yeah, that's the right answer. There's unknown benefit. I like this weak wording. It's likely advantageous in ways. It's not certainly advantageous in these ways. Many traits that provide significant benefits for an animal also likely pose risks to that animal. Yeah, okay. This is good. I feel like if you're not accustomed to logical reasoning questions, this might get you because this is the principle at play here that these scientists are talking about. It's like everybody loves sleep. So here's this trait that provides significant benefits. It's like everybody knows that sleep is great. But these scientists come in and point out that like there are risks to the thing. And so this does a good job of mimicking or mirroring the flow of logic inside the stimulus. And I could see it being, well, yeah, I could see it being tempting from that perspective. It just doesn't match what our job is in this question, which is to logically complete the text. And again, like this is LSAT framing that apparently I'm going to need to teach now. What this means is we need to come up with a statement that is technically true inside of the logic of this thing, not something that captures the core vibe of what is going on here. Um, right, many, yeah, yeah. Okay. Most traits, this most is already too strong. Most traits perform functions that are hard to understand from an evolutionary. Oh yeah, this is great. This is too strong. Most traits perform functions that are hard to understand from an evolutionary standpoint. Maybe we can talk about, sleep performs functions that are hard to understand. That's pretty close to the point that we're making. We don't fully understand the functions that sleep has. But we're just going to overstate it. This is too strong a conclusion. It's not that they aren't saying that this is true for other traits, vegetarianism or eating their own babies. We're not talking about those traits, and so this isn't justified. Okay, boom. Answers B. Wow, I got it right. Okay, cool. Inferences. Oh man. So this is an inference question, just like the LSAT. That's a whole thing. Man, if this is all information and ideas, I wonder, there's another big domain inside of reading that I've forgotten right now what it's called, but I wonder what it is if not logic, because this has all just been logic so far. Oh, is it just like using words? That's we'll see. All right, which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? Okay, so this is just going to be vocab. Great. In recommending this person's collection, Song I Sing, librarian noted that pieces by the spoken word poet don't lose their nature of this nature when printed. The language has the same pleasant musical quality on the page as it does when performed by Fee Fi. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? Okay, this does still involve argument structure. You need to understand that this is supporting this claim, that the words that they're saying here need to be building off of this word right here, that this supports this. We're going to give evidence of that. So I don't know, there's a sense in which this is also still fundamentally kind of about argument structure. Anyway, we need to just read this to find the standard. The language has the same pleasant musical quality on the page as it does when performed by Fee. And our claim is that these pieces by the spoken word poet, they don't lose their whatever nature. And they're demonstrating that by saying, well, it has the same this in both forms. It doesn't lose its pleasant musical quality. Pleasant musical quality is going to be the thing that we're trying to match with the word. And then this is just vocab. Jarring doesn't mean pleasant musical quality, nor does scholarly. Melodic does mean pleasant and musical and personal. This is just one. You need to think this, recognize melodic, there's not that much else to it. Craft and structure. Yeah. I guess this is craft and structure because it's words and they're testing vocab. But this is the thing that I was commenting on. All of these questions have structure. So I'm a little bit confused as to the distinction in meaning behind these titles. I get that maybe craft and structure questions are more about words, but it doesn't make much sense to me. Why it's not like information and ideas questions don't have structure to them. As used in the text, what does the word quality most nearly mean? This is just a words and context question. Okay, so this is another vocab question. I guess there's two different kinds of vocab questions. There's a, can you please add it in? And hey, what does this word mean? So, I wonder if they're going to be different types. This is words in context, and this is going to be like a word choice. They might have a different name for it. This is from F. Scott Fitzgerald. We're looking for the word quality. Gatsby was balancing himself on the dashboard of his car with that resourcefulness of movement that is so peculiarly American. That comes, I suppose, with the absence of lifting work in youth, and even more with the formless grace of our nervous, sporadic game. This quality, characteristic, was continually breaking through his punctilious manner in the shape of restlessness. Oh, characteristic is right here. Yeah. I mean, words or questions like this, man, you just need to read, look for the word, think of the synonym off the top of your head, hope it's there, find something that's close to a synonym. I mean, these vocab questions are some of the hardest to teach, I think, because you just need to know the vocab word. I mean, obviously you also need to read context, but this hasn't really changed much. This is a words in context question. This is the same kind of question, apparently, as the previous one. So two different ways to ask words in context question. Hey, put the word in or tell us what it means. Fine. Yeah, this is all very similar. This format is new. No. This format is the same. This format is new. They never used to ask SAT questions like this because, yeah, you would ask, oh no, this is from the writing. They would do this in the writing, and they would do this in the reading, and now they're combined. So, all right, whatever. Okay, which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise? This is just another words and context question, and I'm not that interested in this. I might just buzz through the work of molecular biophysicist Enrique. Actually, I will say, really helpful that we read the prompt first. Think about how different it is, or different our experiences of reading this paragraph if we know that we're just looking for a vocab word versus if we're looking for the main idea of the whole piece of text, or we know we need to understand the hypothesis so that we can support it. It's just a different task. The type of reading we should be doing is just really different. So I'm glad I know that I'm just looking for vocab words. The work of molecular biophysicist, this guy is known for doing something, some kind of verb, to traditional boundaries between academic disciplines. I mean, even without context, probably what he's doing is breaking down or crossing. But whatever. The university laboratory that De La Cruz runs includes engineers, biologists, all sorts of different people. And the research the lab produces makes use of insights and techniques from all those fields. Oh boy, we're going to combine, we're going to combine disciplines. We're going to cross traditional boundaries, fuck them up. not reinforce them. No, no, no. We're not going to anticipate. We're not going to. We're going to transcend. Oh, wow. Ooh, transcending them. We're going to go beyond them. This is just another. This is vocab. Right. All right. Not that interesting. Really, not that interesting. Okay. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? Hey, this is another main point question. Why is it here? One thing that they said is that the questions on the actual test are going to be. So one thing they said is that the questions on the test are going to be given easy to hard and then organized also like inside of each domain first. Right. Okay, shit. Looks like I'm lagging just a little bit. I'm gonna open a window. Oh, two windows. All right, what's the main purpose of this question? Oh, the purpose. Not quite the main point. Not quite the main point. So it might not be an information and ideas question. It might be a different kind of question, a purpose question, which should be inside craft and structure. We're asking, why did I write this? This is more like a main point question or a purpose question in the reading comprehension for the LSAT, which, those two tests have always been really alike. Yeah, and we've had these in reading previously, in the reading section of the SAT. Some studies have suggested that posture can influence cognition, but we should not overstate this phenomenon. I'm still looking at main point. Some studies have suggested that posture can influence cognition, but we don't overstate this phenomenon. Don't do that. That would be bad. Can I write this? Yeah. We should not overstate this. No, don't do it. So far, this is the main point. A case in point. This is going to be a study that seems to suggest that posture can influence cognition, or maybe it's a study that went bad. In a 2014 study, Megan O'Brien and Allah Ahmed had subjects stand or sit while making risky simulated economic decisions. You're going to stand or you're going to sit and then you're going to make decisions. Standing is more physically unstable and cognitively demanding than sitting, so maybe this posture is going to influence your cognition. Accordingly, these two hypothesized that standing subjects would display more risk aversion. They'd be more scared during decision-making tasks than sitting subjects did, since they would want to avoid further feelings of discomfort, blah, 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 and complicated risk, blah, blah, blah. But these two actually found no difference in the group's performance. So all of this whole goddamn thing is just support for this claim. Some studies say that maybe the way that you stand influences the way you think, but don't go too far. Don't overstate this phenomenon because, hey, check this out. Look at this. All of this whole bullshit is all just an example of like it not all the time, though, this posture influence cognition. So, okay. So the main purpose of the text is to say don't overstate posture cognition. The link between posture and cognition. Don't overstate it. It presents the study by O'Brien and these people to critique the methods and results reported in previous studies of the effects of posture. Yeah, this is really close. It's pretty good. It's big picture, right? But we're not critiquing the methods and results reported. We're critiquing the conclusions that people come to based on the methods and results. We're not saying, oh, these previous studies were conducted irresponsibly or were poorly designed. We're saying that there are a few of these studies, maybe they're well designed, just don't go too far in terms of what you're taking from them. All right, it argues that research findings about the effects of posture on cognition are often misunderstood, as in the case of O'Brien and Ahmed study. Well, that's not true. Okay, so close. This is overstating the purpose. It's not that they're misunderstood. It's more like that they're overstated. Literally overstated. That's different than misunderstanding. It's close though. Misunderstanding is like maybe overstating results could come from a misunderstanding. I have misunderstood these results. I think that they mean that the way that you stand always will determine the way that you think. You could argue that's a misunderstanding. But then it's this kind of slam dunk wrong here. The case of O'Brien and Ahmed's study isn't a case of a misunderstood finding. We are understanding the results of their study perfectly fine. Their studies show that posture didn't have an effect on cognition. All right, so the passage, C explains a significant problem in the emerging understanding of posture's effects of cognition and how these two tried to solve that problem. That's not, I mean, it's like it's just describing a really detailed thing, none of which happens. I suppose a problem is maybe we're overstating the phenomena, but these people didn't try to solve the problem of overstating the phenomenon, so it doesn't really bear up. All right, D better be right. It discusses the study by these two to illustrate why caution is needed. Oh, when making claims about the effect of posture on cognition, caution is needed. Don't overstate the shit. Right, so to get this question right, this is just a purpose question. Man, we should just give kids a bunch of LSAT practice, you know? These are LSAT questions. You need to read the stimulus with an eye toward what is the main point of the stimulus. You center in on that, and then the main purposes of the text is to make the main point of the stimulus. And then you pick that, you know? All right, let's see. Yeah, this is crafted structure, text, structure, and purpose. Yeah, I'm just not seeing the core difference between a main purpose question and the main point question. I mean, like I'm probably missing something. Smart people are writing these tests, but I suppose this is a mere restatement of the main idea. Lily Taylor uses plants and animals from Arizona where she lived. Taylor draws on local resources in the approach she uses to die. Well, we're just restating what is the main idea. We've got to hone in on this central idea. And so that's information and ideas. And by contrast, this is the main purpose. And so we're going to find the main idea but we're not literally just restating it. We are like making a statement about it saying, oh, this passage, the point of this passage is to make the main point. It doesn't feel that different is part of the point I'm making here. I'm not the biggest fan of thinking about these skills as being meaningfully different from each other. In all, like this is the thing about logical reasoning in the LSAT and just the skills, aside from the vocab, all the skills we've been using for all these questions, it's just about understanding how claims relate to each other in the context of arguments, understanding how arguments are structured, and then doing various things to them, strengthening, weakening them, coming to conclusions that aren't overstated. There aren't that many. I mean, and to the extent to which they're splitting things up into categories. I mean, you can do that. The LSAT does that really well. The lines that they're cutting, dividing on, don't make the most sense to me, except for the fact that I guess craft and structure questions have some vocab questions in there, which is different. But, all right, so that's a little bit of skepticism from me. All right, which choice best states the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? Hey, this is a role question from the LSAT. This is a role question. So again, what we're going to do, we're going to need to read this argument, or sorry, this stimulus. This passage could be anything. And we need to sort of map it out and figure out how it's structured, which claims support which. And then the question is going to point to one of those claims, and we need to be able to describe it. Oh, well, this is the kind of claim that's supported by these two examples, but that in turn supports this, for example. Okay. And here's this is the claim right here. All right, the stranger still stood in the exact middle of the cottage where he had first planted himself. Sorry, The text is from Herman Melville's short story, The Lightning Rod Man. So there's the stranger. He stood in the exact middle of the cottage where he had first planted himself. His singularity impelled a closer scrutiny. That's the big sentence. His singularity, his weirdness. He's a weird looking guy, and that impelled a closer scrutiny. He was weird looking enough that you got to look at him even more because you're like, this dude is so weird. Let's look at him more. Okay, a lean, gloomy figure. Hair darkened, like, oh, we're describing him. Hey, we're going to set up the description of him, is what this sentence is doing so far. This sentence is introducing the setting, what is happening. This is like our excuse for describing him more. He was so weird that we looked at him closer. And then this shit, we saw this when we looked. He was lean and gloomy. His hair was dark and lank, mattedly streaked over his brow. His sunken pitfalls of eyes had all these features on them. They played with the blah, the green without the bold. The whole man was dripping. All these. He stood in a puddle on the barrel floor, his strange walking stick vertically resting in his head. This is all just a bunch of description. And so the role of this thing, we're going to set up the description. We're going to give an excuse for why we're describing this dude. It sets up the character description presented in the sentences that follow. That's right. It establishes a contrast with the description in the previous sentence. That's interesting. Contrast, so in order for this to be right, the previous sentence would need to not be weird. Stranger stood in the exact middle of the cottage, where he looked normal. Oh, but on, closer look, he wasn't normal at all. He was an innocuous sort of lightning. All right, C, it elaborates on the previous sentence's description of the character. Yeah. So these are wrong because they're slight misstatements of the truth. They're just saying things that aren't technically true, which is common for both the LSAT and the SAT. I mean, SAT is pretty familiar with these kind of word games. Right, the previous sentence does not, no, it does. The stranger still stood in the exact middle of the cottage. I suppose the previous sentence doesn't really feature a description of a character. But the function of this underlined sentence, this is not a description of the character. It's setting up, this is a description of the character, but this part isn't the part where the character is being described. Okay. It introduces the setting that is described, and this is the right answer for this. Oh, also, the setting that is described in the sentences that follow, if this were right, what this is saying is that we're describing the room. So this is going to introduce, this is wrong because describing a person is not the same thing as describing a setting. Otherwise, it's completely right. We could say it introduces the dude. Yeah, like the dude's weirdness, that is described in the sentences to follow, and now it's right. It's just that you can't use the word setting because that means the room, the physical setting. All right, hopefully it's A. Cool. Text structure and purpose. This is another purpose question. I don't need to repeat my complaints. All right, question 11 is going to be down here, but based on the texts, how would the second people most likely describe the view of the first people? How would these people think about these people? Previously on the old version of the SAT, this is a point of view question, multiple text questions. This is just the LSAT now. There are plenty of questions like these in the LSAT. So in order to do this, we need to read text 1 and not worry and just pick up some facts, and then scan text 2 looking for a a point of intersection between text 2 and text 1. Text 1 is going to set up the map of things we can match to, and then text 2 is going to feature a match, and we'll be like, bing, and then that'll give us the answer. All right. Text 1, what factors influence the abundance of species in a given ecological community? What are the things that make it species abundant? What makes species more or less common in a place? All right, some theorists, are these the theorists? Of the theorists in text one. So these are the theorists. This is the view of the theorists. Some theorists have argued that historical diversity is a major driver of how diverse an ecological community eventually becomes. Uh, okay, so these people think this is important for us to understand, precisely. These people think if you were diverse in the past, you're going to be diverse later. That's what they think. Differences in community diversity across otherwise similar habitats. So you have two similar habitats, but one is hella diverse and one is not diverse at all, are strongly affected by the number of species living in those habitats at earlier times, right? So if in the past it was diverse as fuck, it's going to be diverse now. And if in the past it was super not diverse, it's going to be not diverse now. So that is the idea, the view of the theorist presented in text one. So now we just need to look for a place in text two that comments on this whole diverse in the past, diverse now thing. All right, in 2010, a group of researchers, including this person, created artificial pools in a New York forest. They made some pools. They stocked some pools with a diverse, oh, look, there's some diversity in some of these pools, and others with a single zooplankton species, and allowed the pool communities to develop naturally. So like one pool is like diverse. Oh boy, one pool is like not diverse. And so, either this theory is going to be thumbs up or thumbs down based on their findings. Over the course of 4 years, they periodically measured the species diversity of the pools, finding, contrary to their expectations, that by the end of the study, there was little to no difference in the pools. Okay, little to no difference in the pools species diversity. So, like, oh no, 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 this didn't have an effect. The theory that historical diversity matters is dumb and bad, or is at least, sorry, we don't want to say, well, it's so like not supported, and then it will be important, as it always is, to not overstate it. Doesn't mean the theory is wrong. That's too strong. It just means that this study didn't give support to the theory. All right. These people think, so answer say, the text two people think that the theory is largely correct, that already is no good, but it requires a minor refinement in light of the research's team results. The claim that the theory is largely correct, this is too strong. It is not compelling as a theory regardless, this is way too strong, regardless of any experimental data. Well, that's way too strong. It's because of the experimental data that maybe it's not compelling as a theory. Even this is kind of too strongly worded. All right, it may seem plausible, but it is not supported by the research team's findings. There you go. And again, this is so weak. Maybe it's plausible, but it's not wrong. It's just not supported by our findings in this study this one time. It probably holds true only in conditions like those in the research team. Well, okay, so for starters, it doesn't hold true in the conditions of this research team study. So it's like, this is like a false thing. It's a false claim. And second, only is a very strong word. This probably is also pretty strong. In order for this to be right, they should think that the theory is limited to very specific circumstances, the circumstances here. And that's words like only, very strong. They describe a very particular thing. It's unlikely that that thing is going to happen in the stimulus, which is what's going on here. Cross-text connections, sure. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. Craft and structure. Is this not information and ideas? Is there a reason why cross-text connections aren't in information and ideas? I suppose it's because you're not just restating a thing. You're not just restating. But hold on, didn't we have a most strongly support? This, we're not just simply restating the idea. Here we're making an inference. Well, anyway, it's a cross-text connections question, and it's basically it's a point of view question from the old SAT. This is not super new. Man, I feel like kids just need to take an LSAT class, practice using LSAT questions, and then the SAT will seem easy. But the LSAT's really hard. All right, the student wants to emphasize a similarity between the two works. Which choice effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Okay, this is new. The student wants to emphasize a similarity. We're looking for a similarity. This is going to set up a standard, and then these answer choices need to use relevant information from the notes to emphasize a similarity. So we're going to need both. It needs to be about a similarity, and it needs to use information from this. So I'm going to read this looking for a similarity between what? Between the two works, between the two things. Ooh, okay. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. This dude is a native Hawaiian sculptor and installation artist. His work has been shown in the United States, Canada, Japan, Germany, among other places. Dude sculpts stuff, shows his work lots of places. Many of his sculptures feature discarded objects. Okay. His work, Erasure, includes discarded audio tapes, audio cassette tapes, and magnets. Great. His work, Homegrown, includes discarded. Look at all these discarded things. Oh, they're so similar to each other. This work is discarded stuff. This work is also discarded stuff. Yeah, the things are different. Cassette tapes versus magnets, you know? Push pins, plastic plates, and forks, wood, but they're all discarded shit. So the right answer choice is going to be like, we need to use relevant information from the notes. It's going to be like, this dude whose work is shown in a lot of different places uses discarded objects. For example, you know, these two works both discarded objects. All right, Erasure uses discarded objects such as these things. Homegrown, however, wrong, not a similarity. Oh yeah, this is emphasizing the difference between them. Oh, they use different things. So it's wrong because it's not emphasizing a similarity. All right, yeah, this is cool. This is not just literally a copy paste of an LSAT question type. So, you know, good on them. There's some uniqueness to this test. Like many of Tubbs' sculptures, both Erasure and Homegrown include discarded objects. Oh, hey, look at this. Both of them have this one similarity. Erasure uses audio cassette tapes, and Homegrown uses plastic forks. Well, this is right. We're emphasizing a similarity using these, what is it? We're using this relevant information. All right, Tubbs' work, which often features discarded objects, has been shown both within the United States and abroad. Oh, this is interesting. This is it's like, you know, it's kind of, it's like, oh, this is like a similarity, right? But it's not a similarity. I mean, to the extent to which it is a similarity, it's like, yeah, the United States and also abroad. It's not a similarity between the works. It's like a similarity between two regions. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a little bit clever. Tubbs completed these. That's funny. You're like, oh, I guess these are similar. Wow, that's like actually in terms of like technically correct, it's pretty close. Or like, hold on. So if someone comes in hot and like I chose D, and we're emphasizing a similarity between the two works. Tubbs completed this one in 2008 and Homegrown in 2009. The argument is that these are similar dates. Is this right? Erasure 2008, Homegrown 2009. This is information from the notes. So and we have the answer choices here. Are they going to say that it's wrong because we're not emphasizing? This claim does not itself emphasize. We're not emphasizing the similarity. We're just stating two facts that are similar to each other. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, so it is B, and let's look at what they say for D. D is incorrect because the sentence simply conveys information about two of the works without establishing any logical relationship. Yeah, okay. So, I buy that. Yeah, this is wrong because it's not emphasizing. It's just saying facts. You're the one noticing similarity, but this claim isn't emphasizing that similarity. It's just saying things. Sure, I buy that. That's like consistent. Rhetorical synthesis. Oh, this is a new thing. Expression of ideas. Oh, right. Okay. So legit new, whole new actual situation. This is a genuinely new question type. The student wants to emphasize the similarity between two works. We need to write a whole sentence based on this. So it's akin to the writing questions. It's akin to the old writing section where they would say, oh, we're trying to add a claim into this passage, that does this thing. Which of the following, things would work in the passage? But yeah, I mean, this is kind of cool. It's very similar to that, but there's differences. I mean, mostly because they had to provide us a passage here. I actually like this quite a bit. Rhetorical synthesis. That's good. Seems really easy to teach too. There's just like really clear mile markers. You need to do this thing using relevant information. Yeah. All right. I like it. Transition. This is just a transition question. So probably this is, yeah, I mean, this is introductions, the old SAT category says introductions, conclusions, and transitions. This looks like one of those. So you're going to look at this. What is this idea? You're going to look at this. What is this idea? How do they relate to each other? Choose a word that matches this. All right. Iraqi artist, this person, celebrated as the first Arabic poet to write in free verse. Wow. Didn't reject traditional forms entirely. Her poem, Elegy for a Woman of No Importance, consists of two 10-line stanzas and a standard number of syllables. Even in this superficially traditional work, doopity-doo. Oh, yeah, so this person was the first to write in free verse, but she didn't completely reject traditional forms. Check this out. This is pretty traditional. Because look at there's two 10-line stanzas, standard number of syllables, like traditional as fuck. Even in this superficially traditional work, though, she was breaking new ground. So it's like, it seems traditional, but she was doing new shit too. Breaking new ground by memorializing an anonymous woman rather than a famous man. Oh boy. Though. Great. Transitions. Same old, same old. This is just direct from the old SAT. Which cool, I like that. Transition questions, just clean. They're just calling this transitions. The old question type, again, it was introductions, conclusions, and transitions. And it included some stuff that you could kind of put in this category. Okay. And I'll just unblock this. Which choice completes the text that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? Yeah, so this is this is a grammar question. We've left the logical reasoning section, good. Yeah, so this is a grammar question. Looks like this is going to be a within sentence punctuation question. According to this person of the University of Edinburgh, and again, okay, so important that we're reading the prompt first. Now we're just reading for grammar. I really don't need to pay anywhere near as much attention as I did in the main idea, the purpose, or anything like that. All right, y'all, read the prompt first. This is going to be called the prompt. Read the prompt first. All right, which choice completes the text so that it conforms? So this is just which of these is grammatically correct. According to this person, the reason seeds from a dying dandelion appear to float in the air while some kind of falling is that their porous plumes enhance drags. allowing the seeds to stay airborne long enough for the wind to disperse them throughout the surrounding area. So according to this person, the reason seeds do this thing while falling is that their porous plumes enhance drag. Seems like there maybe should be a comma there, but there shouldn't be. The reason is this. The reason is this. The reason they appear to float in the air while falling is that their porous plumes enhance drag. Hard stop would be way too much. What? Why is A wrong? Boundaries. Yeah, okay. So this used to be called sentence boundaries. This is the previous name for it. This is just the same kind of question. Sentence boundaries question. Sure. Yeah. Normal. These are all incorrect because you don't need a comma. Yeah. Well, that's great. This explanation is just as helpful as the explanations have always been for the grammar. A is wrong because you don't need a comma. That's why. And B is wrong because you don't need a colon, you know? So you should have thought of that. Okay. This, ooh, ooh. So previously in the old SAT, you were in the writing section and you would get a question like this and there would just be no prompt, you know? It would just say one and then, you know, this is question 14, so it would just be like 14 and then it would ask you which of these things to put. Here it looks like, you know, this is just always going to be the same prompt, and this is just like, hey, grammar question. So you just recognize this, and it looks like standard English being capitalized is maybe a good thing to look for. It also is, the order is going to be pretty consistent. They've said that they're going to present it again, easy to hard, and then running through each of the categories of things. You're going to do reading-y type things first, and then writing-y type first later. Or writing type things later on. So you can kind of tell when you're transitioning into the grammar section. I think for that reason, potentially people can do things out of order. If you want to start with grammar, you can go to the end of the section, you know? Yeah, there's actually also another thing to say is that in the logical reasoning for the LSAT, it's similar where it's like going to get harder and harder and harder as the section goes. On that test, high scoring people, or just generally people who don't have timing trouble, can go backward usefully sometimes. You're going to start with the most difficult questions on the theory that if you spend a bunch of time, like you spend enough time on the questions that require time without when you're not stressed out about running out of time, you know? And then if at the end you are running out of time, better to be running out of time on the questions that are super easy so that you can just be like, you know, if you're taking shortcuts and shit, doing stuff in your head, you're less likely to get wrong answers that way. You know, there's pros and cons to that strategy. I don't think it's a good strategy for everyone. It is a strategy that I myself use and might be a strategy that some people want to use here, although it's not fully hard to easy if you go backward. It's like hard, medium, easy, hard, medium, easy, hard, medium, easy. So it's more about what subjects you're going to encounter first. You know, do you want to do grammar questions first or do you want to do reading type questions first, which is a little more subjective. If they ask the same exact number of questions from each category in every single test, you could do all the hard questions first by doing, I'm going to do questions like 3, 5, 8, and 12 or whatever. And these are the hardest ones and then go from there. But that's maybe a bit much. And I doubt it's going to be exactly the same kind. Yeah, could be. Could be exactly the same number of questions from each type in every single test. No, something to keep in mind. All right, grammar question. Right, wow, this is like a whole, we're going to put this whole ass phrase here. That's a lot. Okay, this person is a pre-colonial Maya dance, this thing is a pre-colonial Maya dance drama performed annually in Rabanal, a town in the Guatemalan highlands. So this is a dance, great. Based on events that occurred when Rabanal was a city-state ruled by a king, doopity-doopity-doo, had once been an ally of the king, but was later captured while leading an invading force against him. This is super jarring. This is super jarring. I kind of hate this presentation. But okay, based on events that occurred when Rabanal was a city-state ruled by a king, you want to just jump and try to read this? Yeah, in the previous SAT, this whole thing would be in the passage and underlined. And I suppose that's not meaningfully less jarring. Anyway, it's just going to be weird if this isn't the right answer, it's just going to be confusing. Based on events that occurred when Rabanal was a city-state ruled by a king, Rabban al-Achi tells the story of this dude, a military leader who had once been an ally of the king but was later captured. Well, this looks like it makes sense on the surface. This is a modifier placement question. Based on events that occurred when Rabanal was a city-state ruled by a king, the thing that was based on events that occurred, the thing needs to be the play or the dance drama. It needs to be the thing, Rabban al-Achi. It can't be something else, like in B, based on events that occurred when Rabanal was a city-state ruled by a king. This dude, who is not based on events, it's not like this dude was based on events that occurred, and that's why it's wrong. This dude, the military leader in the story of Rabban al-Achi, had once been an ally, blah, blah, blah. Right, so this is a modifier placement question. There, based on events, there was a military leader. Right, based on events, the military leader, all of these people, all of these things are people who are not based on events. The thing that's based on events is this. Modifier placement? No. Form, structure, and sense. Way more broad as a category than modifier placement was. I mean, in Khan Academy, old school SAT prep, you could just go practice modifier questions and you would get questions like this. Form, structure, and sense. We'll just have to see how broad that is, but seems like, I mean, because this seems like it could include parallel structure. Sense maybe could include things like pronoun clarity or pronoun agreement, subject-verb agreement. You know, like, oh, this thing doesn't make sense because you were talking about something plural, but now you're talking about something singular. So this might be just a, yeah, I don't know. It might represent them getting a lot more low resolution in terms of how they categorize these skills, which would be moderately regrettable in terms of easily, like using their online tools to easily track what skills students need to learn. Oh boy, okay. So that's the reading and writing. We're going to move on to the math. In terms of reading and writing, what? Summary thoughts? The whole reading is the logical reasoning section. I mean, where did we... These, from here, from the beginning to here, it's just a bunch of logical... The reading part, craft and structure, information and ideas. It is the logical reasoning section of the SAT, straight up with some vocab in it. The big procedural point is that students should read the prompt first and practice logical reasoning sections for the LSAT. Students are going to need to learn a lot about argument structure, how to recognize conclusions, how to tell conclusions apart from premises, how to tell the structure of an argument, like this premise is this claim is attacking the evidence on which the conclusion is based. Those sorts of more advanced argumentative relationships seem like they're the kind of things that could be tested here. We'll have to see how time pressured the test is. This is probably better for ADD kids though. Individual passages can be boring, or sorry, like individual stimuli can be boring, but even if your attention is flagging, a boring reading passage is just grueling, and it might take a kid like 6 or 7 minutes or 8 minutes or whatever to get through it if they need to restart multiple times. Here is just it's better. It's a better test for the TikTok world. I'm not a fan, or we'll just have to see what they think of the difference between information and ideas and craft and structure is. But I don't really see a meaningful one in terms of the skills that we're supposed to be teaching. We're just teaching logical strength, strong and weak language, uh, and close reading and argument structure, um, which is kind of cool. We were always kind of teaching that anyway in the reading, but now it really is just kind of all of that. The writing section basically looks similar, honestly. Grammar questions and grammar questions, and I like this grammar questions and like questions that are really easy or like really straightforward, kind of like objective piece by piece to kind of match. Here's this really clear standard for what you need to do, and then the right answer choice is going to like check off all of those boxes. That feels pretty teachable to me. But that's similar to how the writing test has always been. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take a little pause here and then make a new goddamn video for the math because, like, fucking, this is crazy. So, later.